I think this is my first time doing YouTube Live, so it's a new kind of experience. I have an Android device next to me, so I can see myself. Hope you guys can hear me. So if you can hear me, just type, so I will know it's okay to start. As you guys know, last year, uh, no, this year, 2019, last year, 2019, Google I/O, Jetpack Compose was introduced. Since then, like it's been almost a year because we are already reaching Google I/O 2020. Unfortunately, it's not going to take place. But still active development is taking place. Still, it's a developer preview. So today, what I'm going to tell you, maybe if you go back and see old videos, a lot of things have changed. Because when I was trying some samples and some code labs, a lot of things have been changed quietly. So yeah. Uh, a little bit about myself before talking about this topic. So I'm GD Android, and I give talks at events, mostly Google I/O Extended and DevFests. I'm not sure if there is any in-person event going to happen this year, but mostly I will try to speak online. And I work in a company, in a live streaming company. So our live streaming is more like broadcast. It's not like one-to-one, like Zoom or something, but like, recently because of coronavirus, there has been a demand, like everyone wants to go online, right? So we provide different solutions like live shopping, live trivia. And that's why I'm really busy, more busy than ever before, because of so much demand of live streaming. So let's get back to the topic. What is Jetpack Compose? Jetpack Compose, like in simple terms, is a modern toolkit for building native Android UI. It means like you can use Kotlin APIs to make your UI the way you want. So in other words, there will be no XML layouts, and it's all like in code. So you can write programs for it. You don't need to maintain XML file. So we'll be looking at many samples today and a lot of code examples, so get familiar with it. So let's because this talk is mostly about hands-on Jetpack Compose, so I'll get right into it. So let's, for one thing, you have to note that for running Jetpack, trying out Jetpack Compose, you need Canary build, this one. Beta builds will not work. So previously, Android 4.0, people were trying, but now you have to download, if you are like just going to the Android Studio preview site, you have to download Android Studio 4.1. Then you can try out Compose. So let's start a project. Then I think we can get familiar. So my Android Studio version is 4.1, and I'm going to start a new project. So if you start a new project, right, you will see this empty compose activity. Let me start my timer. So here is empty compose activity. So this is added for you. You can just press next. You can write my application name, and I'll just make it default. But you should note that it works on API level 21 and above. And default language is Kotlin. So it will not give you an option for Java. So guys, this is the time to quit Java, I think. Okay, I'll just make this application. And one more thing, like during my demo, maybe sometimes I have to restart my Android Studio, but just bear with me. We will get through this together. Okay, so here you see one interesting thing is like in this project, there is no layout folder. So this is a big advantage, right? And as you load, like everything is set up for you. So let's check like Gradle. So I will make it bigger for you guys to see. Wait a second, let it run. So you will see something interesting here. I'll make it bigger for you. That these are some libraries added for you, like UI framework, UI layout, UI material, UI tooling, and you see it's Dev 03 version. So Dev 03 version is old. I think on April 4, Dev 08 was released. So what I'm going to do is, before trying it, like I have this like new version. I'll just replace here quickly. Let's just sync. Hope there are no errors. Then we can play around and create something. So, okay, everything looks good. So, like here, I have to bring, because many of the APIs change, right? So whenever I make any change, right, I have to build and refresh. So here I write my code. I will make it bigger again for you guys to see. And I think I don't need this one. Okay. Okay. So, yeah, okay. So we have to build the project every time we make any change, so we can see the preview right away. But you see right now, it's just building. So here we go. So this is our simple Hello Android. And you can see here we have a composable function. So every Jetpack Compose UI should be prefixed by composable. Then inside, you have all those components you used to have, like text, button, uh, and some others I will show you, like columns for lists, rows. So this is a very simple default text view, what you used to call it. Here, what I'm going to do is add a style. So I can do some styles. So let's give it different color. Let's say color dot red. So once I'm going to give it color right. So wait. I have to build it again. So there are some issues sometimes with not getting the correct library. So I have to like sometimes play around with it. So it should be this one. Okay. Okay, right. Okay, here we go. So you see that I just styled it, and after some time, you will start seeing red color. Hopefully, yeah. Okay, okay. So so I think you guys will be. I can change and right now, folks. And what I can do is install it on the real Android phone to show you guys, because it's not only here, but it's also on the real device. So let's see. This will be shown here quickly. Just installing. So this is the way I told you. It's for a new project when you create, but you can also add it to an existing project. Later I will show you. So you see this hello Android Night, folks. So what I can do is, like, let's say I want to add some padding on top. So what I can do is I can add some padding. So I do modifier padding, and top I can do maybe, let's say 30 dp dot dp. Okay. So I'm going to build this app again and show you. So at the same time, when it's installed here, you can see like you can do something like this. And also, if I want to be more smart, I can do 16.dp. So you see, so I can just build and refresh. So it will move a little bit to right. Yeah, there's a padding here. So let me get back to my presentation so that I can tell you what I'm going to share with you today. Okay, so you can add Compose to an existing project. So you have to have these build features, this build feature Compose as true. And then other settings I told you, like you have to add this all new libraries, which are in active development at this moment. And there is also some test implementation. So you can test your Compose UI at the same time. And just recently, there is this animation class added, package added. So it means like animations also available, and material library, material theme is available for Compose already. So today I'm going to talk to you and show you some examples about modifiers, how to reuse compose functions, what are container functions. So there used to be a function container before, but it's no more. And then I will share about state in Compose. Let's say you click a checkbox, you have a switch, you have a button click event. So how are you going to capture the state, right? And then something about flexible layouts. So before we used to have flexible columns, flexible rows, but they are not anymore. So let's look into modifiers. So modifiers are parameters that tell UI how can you lay out. So I mean, in XML, you basically have those paddings, margins, alignments, and other stuff, right? So the same case for most of the basic compose functions like text, button, floating button, switch, you can have a modifier. So the API changed totally. Before it was called layout padding or layout margin or something, but now they changed to modifier dot something. So this is a big change. So here you can see we have a surface. So surface is more like a background. Then we define a color. So color.yellow. And then here we have a text. So we can have one modifier, or we can have chain different modifiers together. Okay, so for modifier, right, let's go back and let's look into one more advanced examples. So I have created one code for you guys already. So I think I can share this with you. So here what I did is I created a new story, or you can say more like a list. So what I did is like I have a column here. So column is more like list view. So it's like layer by layer. And then I added this image here. So how I added this image here is I have image resource. So you guys remember there was this plus sign before, right? Now there is no need for this plus sign. You guys can still get this, use this image resource without using the plus sign. And this is a drawable I added in my resources. And then I have a modifier. So here modifier, I have some properties like preferred height, fill, max width, then clip. So I can clip and create those round corners. I will just show you. And so these are all the properties I set up. Then I have this image view, you can say. And then I have the asset. So asset is this coming from resources. Then I have modifier. Then I have scale fit. So scale fit, I just do fill height. So you can do a lot of things here. And then I have just 3 text here with different stylings. And you can see different, I can use different font family. I can use all these text styles which normally you use. And at the same time, I think one thing you guys notice is like sometimes I'm adding padding, sometimes I'm not adding padding. So, and how can I preview it? So I just preview it like this. I call it a name. So this is one good thing, like added in the latest one, that you can name your preview, and you can encapsulate it in a material theme. So let's run this. So I think I'm going to disable this. I'm just going to put it here, and I'm going to run this app and see how it looks like in the real app. So let it run first. Okay, so you see I can have different styles, like a lot of different things here. And let's get back to the slides. Okay, so one thing you noticed here is that once I set content of my app, I'm like adding individual functions. So we can actually reuse our compose functions. So for this, we create a top, like let's say my app compose function, and inside that we can have many children. So one compose can have more compose functions, composable functions as children's. So let's look at this example. Here you see I have my app. So my app has this material theme. Inside there's material theme is also composable functions. Inside there's service. Then there's greeting. And then greeting is also a composable function. So this is how I can reuse composable functions. So once I create this in my activity, it's outside my activity context, so I can use anywhere in my app. So let's go to the next concept, which is making container functions. So before there was an API container, but now it's been removed. So how you make a container function usually is like you define a children. So this children is a composable function, and it returns unit. So all the composable functions return a unit. And then somewhere here, encapsulating inside material theme, you can have these children. So here you can have one composable, then inside another composable. That's how you make your UI hierarchy. So yeah, okay, and let's go to next part. So there is one example of container function is a theme function. So I'll show you one working example for this. So here, let's say we can have our color palette. Like, right now we have light theme and dark theme because most of the devices support dark theme, right? So based on that, you can even use it in the preview. I will show you later difference between light theme and dark theme. And then you can define also your typography fonts, which fonts you want to use at the app level. And then inside here, your children's are here. So I'll tell you more examples about this. So let's go back and see if we can find some examples for this. So, okay, yeah. So I think before that, I can continue the next topic, and then come back to sample code. So you have noticed that we have switches, we have checkboxes, we have button click events, but how do we capture the state of it? So for this, we can manage state in Compose with @ of model class. And we can, whenever this is observable. So whenever it, like, let's say your model changed, it will like redirect compose function to recompose, so like redraw. So let's say you have this click event on a switch, then based on the state, it will change to like other state, and at the same time, it will update the model for you. So this is how we capture events. So let's look an example. So go back to the code. So here I have this model as a counter state. So what I want to do here is I'll just, for you guys, I can preview for you at the composable function counter preview, and I can just counter. So that's how I can pass in, and then I can try to build for you guys. Let's see, everything is good. So what I'm going to do is, like, I'm going to run this sample on the actual device, because over there, actually, I can capture the events, right? Because here I can just see the preview. So I can tell you what's going to happen here. So in on-click event, right, we are going to increment the count, and background color, we have some logic. The good thing about Jetpack Compose is that you can use all the Kotlin code here. Like if you are very good with Kotlin, you can use all those Kotlin code here. So here I have a if-else condition, then I have a text. So in text, I will show how many times I will be clicking it. So let's go back to the main. I think I will hide this one. And I think I have this one, right? So I can just show this one, and okay, let's try to show here. Okay, counter. So I have a counter. I'm going to run this. So let's see on the device. Yeah, wait, I have to. I'm going to run this on the device. So you see I have this button here. So I click on this. Can you see it moving 6 times, 7 times? I'm not sure if you guys can see, but the color will change at some point. So the counter is also incrementing. So this is how you manage a state. Okay. So I'll just keep it here, and I have some more examples about this. So let's look at an example of checkbox. So I'm going to have this checkbox. You can see checkbox. Okay, I'll refresh. So this is a switch component, and actually, if I don't add any form state, it will be just a static component. It will not change. So key thing is, like, without this model, it will just do nothing for you. So you have to have this check state is like initial state, and then you have to capture this on checked change. So here you see we're just like setting it up. And later in your code, when you're doing some action, you can always go back to this class and get this variable to see the value. So here I'm going to come here, and I can add a divider. Let's just add a divider and maybe 4 dp. Okay. And then I have to have a, what was that? It was switch component, right? And then I have this form state. So I can do this. Then I can build and run this to show you guys how it's going to look here. Let's just wait for it to load. And hopefully we can see a switch component, but actually I see it's on the back, I think. Seems like, let me try to run again. I added a divider, but okay. So here. So you see, if I click, it's going to change its state. So similar thing I can do with one more component is more like here is a checkbox. I think it's the checkbox. Okay, so let's check this checkbox. So I think it will be pretty much similar. Checkbox component. Okay, so let's try to build this one and see how it looks like. Okay, so you see, like, yeah, so we can style it the way we want. So it's like very useful to capture button. So here you see, if I'm clicking on button, I can manipulate, then I can have switch and these. So let's go back to the slides and go to the next topic. So here I just showed you the example of managing state with iterator model. Then one important thing is like when you are making your layouts, usually I showed you column, right? And then you can have rows also, horizontal, vertical, both. So before in Jetpack Compose, there used to be flex column and flex rows, but I think that concept is no more. Right now, you just have use column. Inside columns, you have to use modifiers to do that kind of, layout full, like full screen, like fill the whole content. Then you can do some kind of assign some weights. So we're going to play with it and see like if you can figure out. So let's go back to the slides. Sorry, the Android Studio. So here I have one example for you guys. What I did here is I created a column. Let's just look at the basic structure. So I added a column for you. And inside this column, I have another column. But what I did is like I set the weight as 1F, want to occupy as much space as possible. And for the top one, I'm doing fill max height. You can do a lot of other things like fill max size, fill max width. And then I'm assigning some padding. So padding is for whole, right? So you see the output here is like, so this one tries to get all the space. So the remaining space over there is assigned to this text at the bottom one. So this is how like you can make flexible layout using Jetpack Compose. It's sometimes a bit tricky, but if you know the basic XML layout structure, I think the idea is pretty much similar here. Before, because of the flex columns, it was a little bit complicated, but they changed the API. So you can bring your XML knowledge here and do the same thing here. Okay. And so let's go back to the slides to see what else is there. So yeah, I just showed you this example. Like I had this modifier of fill max height. You can do fill max width. And then I have another modifier for internal column. This more like a list view, you can say. And I set the weight as 1. So I want to occupy all the space. And the remaining space is here. So these all individual items are actually inflexible. They will just occupy what the content is inside. Okay, so let's go to next slides. So one of the very important thing in your app is app theme, right? So you have to make a theme for whole your project, and this also can help you to see how this layout looks like in light theme colors and dark theme colors. So how are we going to make it? I'll show you one example. So here, let's say we have the Android night theme, then we can have theme colors. You can also have typography, fonts, and inside here we have these children. And then you can use that to have your light theme and dark theme. Let's see how it works. We'll go back here and I will come to app theme. Okay, so here. So this is some code I was playing around before the presentation. So let's just see the code for now. Okay. So I have this Android night theme, which I can use throughout my app. And here I have theme colors, and then I also can have typography. I can use different fonts. And then I have this material theme. So material themes require colors, and you can also have this one. And so this is pretty good. And then you have these children's. So I have two examples. One is light theme. So inside light theme, I have these light theme colors. So let's see what are these light theme colors. For this, right, there's this light color palette inside this is a new UI for this. And here you can define all your colors. Before you used to have color.xml, where you have all the theme colors. You have to have a theme separately. So you still need a XML file, but you don't need anymore. You can define all your theme colors here. So the difference between this surface is more like a surface, like it's different than background. Background is applied for whole, but surface is just like the background of that particular composable function. And on surface means like this is the text color. So here background means it's the text color. So you see for the dark theme is not officially supported yet, but just play around with it using different colors to see how it looks like. So you see that surface color is different, and then the on surface is white. So it means the text will be white here. So I can show you the preview. So it actually looks like this. So you have Android Day. So I play around with this green color. So it's like this. And then I have the dark theme. So dark theme is, of course, like black background and then white color. So this is how you can test throughout your, yeah. So for me, like my presentation time is almost up. So what I'm going to do is try to wrap up and go for the question sections. So Jetpack Compose is in technical preview right now. Please do not use Compose in production, because if you're, let's say, using Dev 3 and now you start and try to migrate to Dev 8, everything will broke. You have to rewrite a lot of things. So how can you keep it up with it? I recommend you guys this app, Compose Samples, is Jet News. So Jet News is like more like updated one. So whenever there is a change, they will update for you. So this is I can show you like how it looks like. It's a very advanced app. Let's try to run this app to see how it looks like on the real device. So it has many components built in for you to try out, and whenever there is a new change in Compose, they will update this app. So it looks pretty much like this. And let's try to click on some item. So see, it's like very nice. So it's using material theme, and I can bookmark, and I can bookmark. I can, yeah. So this functionality is not available, but actually they had this pop up. So it's also built in Jetpack Compose. So yeah, I think you can try out this. It's pretty good, and it has like many uh, like basic setup. You can use this app as a to learn new things, and also how can you start. So if I go to the main activity here, you see it's very simple. So they just have just Jet News app, and inside that all the things are happening. But right now it's not downloading any data from network. It's all on device. So if you ask me like how can I show image I download from network, right now I don't know. Also, I'm still trying to figure out. Okay, so let me just conclude. Okay, so yeah, here are some resources. You can take a look, and I will share my slides. So there's like, if you want to understand how Compose works, how Compose runtime works, then there's a good talk in Kotlin conference 2019. So, and there are some basic talks also, but a lot of APIs change. So you might want to, yeah, try out sample first. Yeah. Okay, thank you so much, and I will look forward to your questions. So I have first question. This one I don't know. How much does how much does importing Jetpack Compose library add on to the app size? This one also don't know about this one because I haven't. I'm just playing around with it. I'm not building a production app right now. Yeah. Why would we go? I think it's giving you more. So it's like the thing is, if so there was this sample code I made before. You guys have to create a list recycler view. You need to have adapter and create XML, then connect adapter, then load an items, right? So if you take the same logic and use Jetpack Compose, your code will be 50 to 60% halved. So actually you're creating views inside the code, but actually you're simplifying a lot of things, a lot of unnecessary things you need to do, but you don't need now. I mean, adapter you will not need anymore because it's just pure Kotlin. So you get data from network, you can just create those runtime views or something, and then you can populate everything. So I find it very useful. Yeah. So Compose works everywhere. Like you see my classes. Sorry, yeah, I have to share. Okay, wait. So for me, like what code I showed you before, right? Like all the code is actually inside any Kotlin class. So it's not necessary to be inside an activity and fragment. It can be anywhere in my Android app. I can reuse it. So it's not necessary to be an activity and fragment. Yeah, because you can see previews without being it in the activity or fragment. Yeah. But if you need some context, uh, sometimes then you might need activity fragment. But where it works, like all the composable functions and previews work outside activity and fragments. Yeah, I think it will take longer time. Actually, uh, like what I showed you today, it worked very well for me, but sometimes it got stuck when I was playing around with it. So, so it depends totally on your computer resources. Uh, yeah, so there's a lot of improvements being done in general with. So when you do build and run, actually, so that's like all the things are taken care by Compose runtime. So they optimized it. I think when I tried Dev 08 with Android Studio 4.1 preview version, it's much faster than I tried before with Android Studio 4.0. So there have been lots of improvements, and it's still like in active development. We will see more improvements, but like as you saw in my demo, there was no problem every time it was working. Okay. I think this is a very complicated thing. I'm not sure about this. I haven't tried it. Actually, what I wanted to do with a sample app I have before, I was using coroutines with view models. So once I get data from network, I want to show in the Jetpack Compose UI. But right now, none of the Jetpack Compose sample I have seen is using any network for now. So maybe it's in work for now. So, but obviously, view model is something different than add model. Add model is just to maintain the state of those elements. So your view model is actually have some data from network at DB, but model is just to maintain state of that component, like switch, checkbox, button. So these are two different things. Yeah. I think I like Jetpack Compose more because I can see preview. Usually, like the thing is, like you have to switch between two worlds sometimes, right? Like you have XML, then you go to the code. So you have to basically connect all the times. But here, actually, you just write one time, is connected at the same time. I mean, you don't need to find view by IDs or something. So I find it it's working well. My focus is more on trying out samples and APIs, not about performance at this moment. No, I don't think so. So it's all dependent on activity because you're using this component inside an activity, right? So, so for that, you have to preserve and do other kind of things. So I didn't try it also, but I think the activity recycle will not change with Compose. Yeah, Compose will be dependent on activity cycle. Okay, yeah. Thanks, guys. And if you have any question, you can just message me on Twitter. Okay, that's all from my side.